Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining me today. With me today on this episode of The Opportunists is the president of Farrell-Calhoun, headquartered in Memphis, Tennessee. That's Anthony Ward. Anthony, how are you this morning?
I'm good, Mark. Glad to see you.
And so tell me what's interesting just to get these started. I'm aware that Farrell-Calhoun transformed their business in sort of the aftermath of the events of Kelly Moore. And I have a lot of questions about how you did that. Let's just start with, what happened and what you guys did and are doing.
Well, we had, we're in a lot of states. We were actually in 8 states before the Kelly Moore implosion, and as of January 1, I had zero intentions of expanding into the state of Texas. Wasn't on our radar. Weren't thinking about it. Really, it was a long ways away. And then we started hearing rumblings and about, Kelly Moore was in financial trouble. And then literally the first 2 weeks of the year, I had more phone calls about Kelly Moore and different things that were going on, and it was just kind of shocking. I'd heard people tell me we don't think they're going to make the end of the year, and I'm like, oh, surely that can't happen. And then I had people go, oh no, I don't think they're making the end of the month. And then I had some people say they're not going to make the end of the week. This was the second week of January, and I had some people prognosticating that in Monday or Tuesday, and I thought there's no way. Well, turns out they were right.
They were right. Yeah.
And so we actually had a kind of a managers meeting, with our corporate people scheduled for that Friday. And we were like, hey, what are we going to do about Kelly Moore and the opportunity that this may present itself? And we'd already started making some phone calls to some people. So we had already been in touch with Kelly Moore people, but we didn't know anything about Texas. We didn't honestly, I didn't know much about Kelly Moore, but we just thought, hey, this is a family owned company. These is not Sherwin Williams. These are probably our kind of guys. And we should at least get on the ground and see, let's go talk to them and let's see what we can do. And so that was on a Friday. We scheduled a flight out the very next week and got on the ground and went and met with people in Dallas and met with people in Austin and actually met with somebody in Granbury, Texas as well. And we were super impressed, especially with the Austin people and the Granbury people. We thought they were fantastic.
I don't know
Todd,
Granbury, by the way, but Austin, I'm aware, was one of Kelly's better markets. And so that obviously you must have gotten some quality professionals there, right? Because you can't support a big market like Austin unless you have the right people.
yeah, they had about 12 stores in the Austin area, and I think they were all pretty profitable. What's crazy is one of the guys that we were speaking with set up a meeting and we went to lunch, and I thought we were just meeting him, and he'd set up a meeting with his entire team, and we had lunch with 10 guys. And honestly, it was just an unbelievable group of guys. We're a little odd at Farrell-Calhoun and a little bit weird. We're not the most corporate, we're not the most politically correct group. And so when those guys showed up and started giving each other crap instantly and started zinging each other, I thought, these are my kind of guys. I think we should hire some of these guys. And so it was great. And we went to Dallas, and Dallas just didn't work out for us. One of the better salesmen that we had been told that we needed to talk to went and hired on with Texas Paint before we ever even got a chance to talk to him. And then Granbury was basically a bidding war as to see who was going to get the building, and whoever got the building got the people. We didn't get it. But we thought Austin was great. We thought the people in Austin were just fantastic. And we're like, well, we weren't thinking about going to Austin, but we're going now, or we're going to try to go now. And then after talking with them, then the real struggle became about, because then it became trying to get locations,
Right.
because Kelly Moore did some not so intelligent things with regard to leases. And we talked to some guys that are like, hey, we should go look at this store. And then we looked at the store and we're like, they're paying $15,000 a month. $15,000 $15,000 a month rent for the store that's not in a great area. And we're like, that makes no sense. One of the stores that we wanted that was fantastic, Sherwin-Williams rented it out from under us. A couple of other stores, Sherwin-Williams, or according to the landlord, Sherwin-Williams had given them an LOI and kind of kept us and everybody else from getting the locations.
But
That's fine.
you guys were the first that I had heard of in terms of responding to this crisis. I was hearing things from employees right away. People were looking to be hired, and I was certainly hearing from paint companies that were considered this an opportunity. They saw what was going on and recognized the opportunity. But you guys, I think it was your guy William.
Yeah,
Uh,
William Lofton had he used LinkedIn and
yep.
he talked to a whole bunch of Kelly Moore people. I had reached out to some
Including
people.
including me, by the way. That's who reached out
Yes,
to me and said he was the first one to tell me anybody was being aggressive, and that was Farrell-Calhoun. So good for you guys, even though it sounds like maybe you had a few opportunities stolen out from under you. Still good for
yeah. I
you
mean, we would
guys.
have loved to have gotten some more, but we're happy with what we got. But it was good. Then the struggle became getting the leases on the buildings that we wanted. There was the first store that we opened was in Kingsland, Texas, which is kind of out in the middle of nowhere, and it's literally about an hour and a half away from Boston. But the salesman that worked that area was fantastic. We were pretty sure we could get the store manager. It was just a question of, are we going to get the building? And in that instance, Sherwin-Williams was bidding for it heavily. And we really got into something where, we really had to convince the landlord, hey, please rent it to us as opposed to renting it to Sherwin-Williams. And the funny thing is, I was just last week, I was in Austin at our Kingsland grand opening ribbon cutting ceremony with the Chamber of Commerce. And I actually got to meet the landlord, who was ecstatic that she had rented it to us because we've already cleaned up. And she's like, the building's never looked this good.
Well,
And
congratulations.
yeah, we've cleaned it up and reorganized the warehouse and everything like that. And I mean, we hit the ground running in that store. I mean, we've only been open 2 full months and they broke 100K, which for
Wow.
us is
Good for you.
insanity.
That's
But
great.
like I said, it gets back to when you can hire fantastic people, we can do great things.
And so I have some questions that I want to ask you. You saw them. I sent them to you as the prep in terms of just how you accomplished the task. But before we do, let's lay out a little bit what you guys took on. How many stores did you add? How many people did you add? And give some sort of relevance to your size, because I think a lot of people listening probably never even heard of Farrell-Calhoun or don't know the details of Farrell-Calhoun. That's for sure.
So we had prior to that, our store count was at we were 47. We took on 3 stores. 2 are open. One I'm still in use and occupancy hell. State of Texas is a very great state. It's a very business friendly state. I'm just dealing with one municipality that seems to be extremely difficult. We're almost ready. I mean, literally, all I need is a use and occupancy, and I'll have the third store open. So we've hired 3 salesmen, 3 store managers, and basically a second person or a third person for each store. The one thing that did happen that was, it was difficult is, salesmen generally have enough money that they can wait something out and say, hey, if something good is coming down the line, I can wait for it. Store employees, some of those guys are living more paycheck to paycheck, and they
Right.
were like, "Hey, I got to get a job, and I got to get a job now." And there were some fantastic store employees that either went to work for Sherwin Williams or went to work for the local Benjamin Moore person. I mean, we would have loved to have had them, but they made a change, and I understand, if somebody's started with a new position and they're happy with then that's fine. We're hoping that once we get rolling and things get well, we do well and success builds, that people will be like, hey, maybe I want to come back to Farrell-Calhoun. Because I mean, the one thing is that while we're nearly as big as Kelly Moore, we're still a family run company. We still have a lot of the same ethics and values that I think the very old Kelly Moore, not the Gassenheimer Kelly Moore, but the old Kelly Moore had. And, we hired some older guys that were Kelly Moore, and they kind of made the joke. They said, this is like Kelly Moore, 15, 20 years ago. And so, I mean, I'm the president, but I still, any of my salesmen, store guys can call me on my cell phone at any point in time, period. And they all do, which is great. I hope we never lose that.
Owning and operating a family business is different. It doesn't matter how big the business gets. You still have different obligations. When you say you're a family business, you have different obligations to your employees, right?
Yeah, and realistically, I mean, my father, so just to give you a brief history of Farrell-Calhoun, Farrell-Calhoun got started in 1905 by two guys named John J. Farrell and T. Finley Calhoun. They passed it on to Neil Farrell's son. He did okay with it. And in 1974, my father, who was a paint chemist for another Memphis paint company called Burkall, who is no longer in existence, wanted to start his own paint company. But in the early 70s, you couldn't do that because the oil embargo was going on. And so if you didn't have allocation and you weren't already buying raw materials, you couldn't get any. So dad looked around and saw that Farrell-Calhoun was an old brand, and he thought maybe I could buy them. And he went and talked to Neil Farrell and said, were you interested in selling out? And he said, yeah, he was getting old at the time. Dad wanted to see some financials. Neil wouldn't give it to him. And then Dad said, well, can I take an inventory? And Dad knew what the value of raw materials were. And he basically, just offered him what the values of the raw materials were. And they said, yeah, that'll work. And so when
That's how
Dad took
paint
it
stores
over,
sell, by the way. It's not just manufacturers. Paint stores sell the same way. How many
yeah,
gallons do you have? What are they worth? Nothing else.
yeah. But at the time, Farrell-Calhoun in 1974, they had two stores and they were doing about $100,000 in business. That's it. So they weren't
And you
doing.
guys are company-owned stores, right? You guys
So we have
primarily are
company-owned
company-owned
stores.
stores.
Yes. So our stores are company-owned stores, but we also have a network of dealers as well. In 1974, when Dad bought it out, we had zero dealers, but now we've got about 140 dealers scattered over a very, very large territory.
Are dealers in Texas part of your plan, or are these just going to be your company-owned stores and you're going to operate them like that?
So we had dealers already in Texas. Paint Etc. was a dealer of ours in Longview, Texas. And the funny thing is, when the shortages happened in 21, we got actually approached by Kelly Moore if they would sell us, because we sold this dealer a lot of oil-based paint because we were one of the few manufacturers that were still able to get oil-based raw materials and make them. We got approached by Kelly Moore when we sell them, and we're like, no, we will not sell you in Longview, Texas. So we had about 3 or 4 dealers in Texas already. We wouldn't mind getting extra dealer business in Texas, but really it's probably more company store. I mean, the guys that we hired from Kelly Moore were company store guys. We tried to hire a dealer guy from Kelly Moore, but we were unsuccessful in hiring him.
And they didn't have much of a dealer business anyway. But
Kelly Moore had a good export market,
yeah,
and Kelly Moore had some dealer business, but they really didn't have a strong dealer presence in Texas.
well,
Because
they
when
only
we
had about 40 dealers nationwide, from my understanding. So how many could they have had in Texas? Even 40 for the state of Texas would be barely enough.
Yeah, and when you looked at their footprint of where they had stores, they did a really good job with stores. Especially in I think most of the Kelly Moore stores in Texas did very well outside of Dallas. I think the Dallas ones, on the other hand, were not good. It was a pricing aspect, and they just didn't. I don't think they had the sure volume or whatever, which is why when we initially went to Dallas, we looked at it and went, this is maybe not the thing. And the other thing is we didn't get to hire the salesman that we wanted to talk to. And when we talked to one guy, it just didn't seem like he fit our culture.
And so let's talk a little bit about the planning and execution of this process. The two things that I really want to still talk about is the planning and execution and the effects on your team, right? Because that's what I'm hearing most about is the work from executives who pushed into this, is the work involved to do this is, it's pressure filled, right?
Well, I think that the problem is that the pressure on all of this was you had employees who were, even the salesman who kind of one of the guys that we hired had worked for PPG and had worked for SW and was just honestly cringing at the thought of having to go back to work for one of those two companies because he liked the family business. He did not like the corporate environment. And so when we went down and talked to him, he's like, man, I pray this Farrell-Calhoun thing worked out. It sounds happy, but still, he needs a check. And so you're trying to move as fast as you can to get that going and working to get generally speaking, when we go to any new market and you're looking for locations, that's a long process.
Right.
You're trying to evaluate different locations and then you find a location and then you got to look at the lease and then you have to figure out what you're going to do construction wise. I mean, we were trying to push this as quickly as humanly possible. So it was a pressure cooked thing dealing with landlords and leases and different things like that. That was very, very stressful, trying to get all that done. All the while, PPG and SW kept throwing more money at these guys
Yeah.
literally every week.
SW was very aggressive in the Kelly Moore space. Obviously, there wouldn't be the sort of thing that I would cover to say that they had 4,000 stores and went to whatever 4,100. It's not such big news, but they were very, very aggressive. They hired a lot of people. They opened quite a number of stores, from my understanding.
Yeah, like I said, our big pressure thing was just trying to get leases. And once we got leases in place, then it was okay, what have we got to do to fix these stores up? And then what have we got to do? We're in a lot of different markets. I mean, the good news is we've done enough of the drill of, hey, we're going into a new market and we know what we have to do. We actually have a spreadsheet laid out that says whenever you open a new store, this is what all has to get done. Somebody's got to be on, getting racking. Somebody's got to get forklifts. Somebody's got to get, we got to set up training. We have a whole system in place, and I've got a crew that kind of like goes through this. The problem was, this was happening at lightning speed, and
Right.
so we had, it was a lot of. I worked. I think I worked every single weekend until like April. Um, it
Because of this, from
because of
January
it.
to April, because of this. Yeah.
Yeah, I worked almost every Saturday and Sunday because the other thing, every time you go into a new market, they stock unique products that you don't stock in other markets. And so you got to order those products in, you got to set them up in the computer, you got to work out the pricing. I mean, it's just all these different, I mean, it's just like pricing. We were trying to figure out, well, what are we going to sell pricing for? Um, because, we have different price levels based off of different markets that we're going into. And we didn't want to come in there. We've made the mistake of, oh, let's just go in there with our Memphis price plus the freight and realize, well, if that's not the market price, you either price yourself too low, which makes you appear that your paint's cheap, or you price yourself too high, and then people are like, well, I'm never going to give you a shot. So you got to do some intelligence work. That the other thing
And
is, it
that's
was
stuff that you would normally spend months on, by the way, just right. That's what makes these stories so compelling to me is that a company opening up in Texas from Tennessee, you would spend months normally determining what products to put in the store, what you want to sell them for, how much staff is needed, what's the expectation for this store. And all of these things for you guys, you are making these decisions in an instant, which is what I find so compelling.
yeah, we just got to get hired. We got to get open. And I mean, look, we are still, there are still a lot to go on the learning curve. I was down there last week and talking with our sales guys, and they don't know our product line as well as I wish they knew our product line. Our normal MO when we go into a new market is we'd have somebody training at one of our stores for a month, or we'd send somebody over there, to go train with them. I did have a couple of my operations folks go to Texas to kind of train them. I actually pulled one guy out of retirement who retired way too early, and I sent him over there to train people and do stuff on, because I mean, you think about it, these guys not only didn't know our products, they didn't know our point of sale computer system either.
That's right.
So that's those are things. I mean, we brought some key people up to Memphis for a week to train them, but you can't. That's just not enough time. You just need more time training. You need more time familiarizing yourselves with products and different things like that. And I mean, and the other thing is, I didn't know anything. Like, if you'd asked me January 7th, do you know any Kelly Moore product name? I would have said, nope, don't know anything. So all of
Right.
our team had to familiarize ourselves with, these are the Kelly Moore products, and here is the offset to the Kelly Moore products within Farrell-Calhoun. And so, and try and, coordinate all that. And so, I mean, it's funny when we speak to these guys, we still kind of speak to them and like, well, this is the offset to this. This is the Durapoxy offset because that's a Kelly Moore product name, or this is, and so we still kind of talk in those terms as opposed to them talking in Farrell-Calhoun language terms where they're quoting
Right.
our products. But I mean,
Right.
that's something, and we'll
That'll
get
that's
through it.
going to take a little while, right?
That's going to take a little while. And it's not just us; it's the customers. When we were down in Austin, we did a lunch and learn with a customer down there last week, and we're kind of teaching them, hey, these are our products, and of course, with them, it's, well, this is the Sherwin equivalent because that's what everybody can kind of relate to. But I mean, the good news is that so far the customers have been very receptive. One thing that I can't say enough of about the Texas customer base that we've gone into is they're extremely appreciative that we are there. They are just, a lot of those guys were like, I just don't want to buy from Sherwin. I just don't want to buy from PPG. I need another option. I want another family-owned business option that I can have. We make great products, but a lot of times it's, when you walk into a new market and you're Farrell-Calhoun, they don't know who the heck Farrell-Calhoun is. They're not willing to give us a shot. But these guys, because we hired these guys, they're all willing to give us a shot. And when they give us a shot, the feedback from the products has been great. The guys tried and they're like, man, y'all's products are really fantastic. And I can't say enough good things about the team that we hired.
Tell me, I'm curious, what, if any, surprises you had along the way? Anything that you learned along the way that you're like caught you off guard or anything like that?
Well, the use and occupancy with the city of Georgetown, Texas is one of them. We basically went into an old paint store that had turned into a beauty salon. So it was pretty easy. All we needed to do was, tear down some sheetrock walls and remove some sinks. And we thought this is going to be the easiest thing in the world. And we've been ready to go there for a month. And we are just dealing with permitting problems. And it's just the most shocking thing in the world. And there's some unique Texas things that we didn't know about. In every other market, we don't have to have aerosol cans. We're in, we don't have to have aerosol cans locked up. We have to have like some permits in case we sell any kind of solvent stuff. And we have to do some training for people that we're like, we don't do that anywhere else in the South. I mean, I realize in the North it's probably different, but I mean, we're in every state that we're in, we're not under OTC 1, 2, or anything like that. It's just pretty much just freewheeling, sell whatever you want. What allowed us to move so quickly in Austin was that we did this 2 years ago in Alabama when I hired a rock star from Sherwin-Williams in Alabama, and we had to hire him, train him, get his store open, and get everything going at lightning speed. And we did. And and the crazy thing is the Alabama store they set the record. I think their first month they did like 180.
That's a
Um,
good month.
yeah, just insane. And so Alabama has done so well that we're in the process of opening our fourth store in Birmingham, and we only went in there, in 22. And so, so we were prepared. And that's the thing is all we need is people. If I can get good people and we can go. Oh, the crazy thing about us is Austin was probably beyond where we thought we could really have a store because our furthest store is before Austin was Bristol, Virginia, which is about 500 miles away from Memphis. Austin is 650 miles away. But you know what? We can do it. Unfortunately, it means getting on a plane for me. Getting on a plane sucks because I swear the last 3 times that I've gone to Austin, my flights have been delayed. And the last time I got stuck in Atlanta because I missed my connecting flight. It's just like, well, just par for the course.
You guys are done now expanding, or is there another big push that goes with
We're
this?
not. I mean, when we went down there, we really thought three is about all we can take. That's about all we can handle. When I sat down and met with the guys at lunch, like I said, there were 10 guys. I thought they were all awesome. If we had been a bigger organization, I would have said, let's hire all of them. And let's get all of your stores open. But, you know, I don't have the team to do that. And we are not big enough to do that. And we got to take
Broadband is
one.
the biggest problem there, by the way. I'm sure that had you had the people, you would have found the money. That, generally speaking, that's the way that goes, right?
No, actually, financially, we have a lot of money in the bank. One of the things that allows us to do is when we see an opportunity like this, we can move quickly and we don't have to worry about finances. We just go and buy. And so, that's a nice perk. But no, we're honestly, when I was down in Austin, so we've got stores in Cedar Park. We're going to have a store in Georgetown. We got a store in Kingsland, but we really don't have one in Austin proper yet. And everybody down there goes, that's your next store. And then, of course, we're also getting calls to be in other markets around. I mean, we should probably have a fourth store there semi soon. We just need to get these three going. But then, yeah, we'll probably open another. And then if the stores do as well as the stores that are open now are doing, where we can go, hey, we don't have to worry about this anymore. Then it's just going to be like, all right, where's the next location and where do we need to be? When you look at the Kelly Moore footprint where they had 10 to 12 stores, Austin is undeniably a big enough market for us to have 10 to 12 stores. I mean, the crazy thing is Austin could theoretically become one of our biggest markets that we actually sell. We weren't even looking there 6 months ago.
Well, listen, when opportunity knocked, you answered the door, and a lot of people don't do that. I find that a lot of people are afraid of quick decisions. A lot of people, executives, even talented, trained executives, are fearful of moving too quickly, particularly in corporations. A lot of time the corporation doesn't move as quickly as the executives. And so you guys, all three of the companies that were involved in this, you guys and HIS as well as Dunn-Edwards, you guys all impressed with how quickly you were willing to move and how boldly you were willing to invest.
Yeah, I mean the thing is we've just looked at it as you hit the nail on the head. When opportunity's there, you have to jump. When the PPG ICI acquisition happened, however many years ago, we had no presence in East Tennessee. The furthest east that Farrell-Calhoun went was Nashville, and we'd wanted to be in East Tennessee, but we never there were never great employees that were available or anything like that. But when PPG bought out ICI, we went, they're going to be unhappy people. There are going to be opportunities. And literally the next week, we started calling people and trying to figure out, okay, who's the guy that we need to contact? And I mean, when that acquisition happened, I think we were on the ground in weeks after that and talking to people, and we ended up hiring someone, and then that was a domino effect. And now we have 8 stores in East Tennessee, and they're doing fantastic.
And so I'm excited to see what Texas looks like for you
Yeah.
guys in a couple of years. Anthony Ward, president of Farrell-Calhoun Paint in Memphis, Tennessee, and now Austin, Texas. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Mark. Glad you're back in the States, and thank you for having me.